will apply will be the standard one. So there will be the students who wish to study in Victorian Government School for pretty much a long time. It can be from primary school, it can be from year 7, year 8, year 9, up until year 12 to finish PCE. The student will have to come in on student visa 500 school sector by him or herself. And for the state application, they can only study at the school accreditation only. So for the background, as you may know, well, we have about 1,500 schools across Victoria, so both primary and secondary schools, but only about 320 about that can accept state applications, okay? So that is the first one. The second one, dependent. So dependent can be, so normally they will be here with the parents who are studying at the tertiary sector. So they normally got the student visa 500, but as a dependent, it can be higher education, it can be VET, it can be ELICOS, depending on the course that the parent is doing. And they can go anywhere. They can study at both registered and accredited school in Victoria. Okay, so that's two of them. And the next one would be study abroad application. So this one is a bit, it's not very common. We have some, but not a lot. So they can do for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year period. They normally would, most of them will come from normally Europe and South America. They don't take exams and they're here for pretty much experiences the whole Australian lifestyle. So it's quite rare to have them coming from Asia normally. And the last one, the temporary application. So this one is for students who want to study. So there are two types. The one is the short term and long term. The short term one is normally here on tourist visa and they can study up to 12 weeks. And the long term one is the one on bridging visa. So the one, so for example, if they're here with the parent who's waiting for partner visa, they've got a bridging visa onshore, so they will be on a temporary application. So 4 of them.
Do you have any questions about any of the 4 fee categories?
So far, all good.
So far, so good? All right.
Yep.
Okay. So in Victoria, for the government schools, we have different levels of accredited schools. There's level 1 accredited schools and there's level 2 accredited schools. And the difference between those 2 levels is that the level 2 accredited schools are able to provide homestay, accommodation, and welfare to the students, whereas level 1 schools do not. They do not offer or provide homestay accommodation to the students. So I don't know whether or not you're familiar with our publication, Right School, Right Place. Hello? Oops. Hello?
I think I can hear very clearly, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Yeah.
we were just getting a flashing.
Maybe those colleagues can turn up your volume a bit, because I can actually hear very clearly.
You can hear clearly.
Yeah. I think should be fine.
Okay. So are you familiar with the publication that we put out called Right School, Right Place?
Oh, yeah. I just shared with my colleague today the newest version. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I want to let you know that we have just updated that publication and it's available sometime within the next few weeks. The online version will be. So as soon as that's available, we'll be notifying our agents to let you know that the updated version is online, because it's a really wonderful resource, to assist you and families to locate the right school for the student.
Yes, that would be really good. Besides, may I know whether you have Chinese version as well, or still just English version?
I think for Right School, Right Place, it's only
English, right? Version. Okay, yeah. No problem. Yeah.
But we do have plan to, so we got feedback from the agent to translate that into Chinese. So haven't happened yet, but it will happen in the future, hopefully.
Okay, sure.
All right, moving on to accommodation and welfare policy.
Yeah, I can do this one. Okay, so I think because obviously we, as a school sector provider, we deal with most of them will be under 18 years old, and welfare is quite an important part of it. And I can imagine as an agent as well, when you talk with the parents, the welfare is a part that they are most worried about. And when you apply for the visa as well, that is a part that the DHA will look into it quite carefully too. So for us, we got four welfare options they can choose for the students, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so option 1 and 2. So option 1 would be parent or legal custodian. Okay, so this normally will be the parent. Now, for legal custodian, sometimes it can be a bit confusing, but for us, you have to, so it normally had to be the parent, so the father or the mother, or if they not around, they had to be adopted by somebody to call that person legal custodian with the court order and everything. So option 1, if a parent come over with the student, they need to apply for a guardian visa 590 as well. You might be aware of this. So option 1. Option 2 is DHA approved relative. So this had to be, so we got a list on the DHA website. So brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, uncle, auntie, grandparents have to be blood relatives. And so for these two options, we don't have any welfare responsibilities for the students. And when you apply for your student visa, the DHA will request further evidence from you to prove the relationship. So that option 1 and 2, and so all students under 13 years of age have to choose option 1 and 2. Okay. If they answer mostly primary school, early year 7, they will have to choose option 1 and 2. They cannot choose option 3 or 4 if they're under 13 years old. Now the next one, option 3 and 4, which is a bit more common for older students. So if they're over 13 years old, they can go option 1, 2, 3, and 4. Option 3 will be parent-nominated homestay. So what it means is, so normally it would be a distant relative, it's a great uncle or a family's friend, somebody they know, and they can nominate that person to be the homestay for the student. Just keep in mind, so we will charge non-refundable accommodation placement fee, and the school will have to do the site check, which means they have to come in to check the house. And even though it is nominated by the parent, the school and that reserve the right to accept or reject the homestay. Okay, and we use exactly the same homestay guidelines with our school source homestay. And option 4 would be school arranged homestay. So this one will be the school will have their homestay families with them, and you can request to stay one of those homestay families. So there'll be 2 fees: accommodation placement fee and arrival support fee, option 4. So now these 2 options are quite common. The only thing should be mindful with option 3. The location of the nominated homestay should not be too far away from the school. It depends on the age of the student. Usually half an hour one-way public transport is acceptable for us. Anything longer than that, we have to look into it. Okay. That's it. Have any questions for the welfare options?
No, I think
okay.
Very clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any chats? Should we check?
Let me check. It says here, isn't it?
Just to point out that because DT Victoria will send out a capacity list from time to time. So on the capacity list, there will be like some notes like only option 3 available or only option 4 available, etc. So guys, you can pay attention to that because just now Trent talked about these 4 options.
Yeah. And even though we say that if they're over 13 years old, they can choose option 3 and 4. But if you look into our capacity list, you can see a lot of schools prefer them to be around 14 and a half, 15 years old. So that is it's a school by school requirement. And the reason is because sometimes if they're 13, 14 years old, they're a bit too young for the homestay option, even though we can provide it. But if you choose that option 3 and 4 for very young student, we might have it. It will take us longer to secure a school for the parents. So if you can just let them know upfront, so you know it will take longer than usual to get the school for the student would be good. But normally, if they're over 15 years old, it's a lot easier to find homestay for them. Because they're older, they're more mature. But if they're a bit younger, between 13 and 15, it's slightly a bit trickier. Okay, now the next part.
Is that clear? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think it's clear.
Okay. All right. So the next thing we're gonna go over is the online application system. And I'm assuming that all of you are familiar with the online application system. You've used it before to submit your applications to our department?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Are you having any issues with that? With the online application system?
I think the only problem is that because I think the password will be updated from time to time, right? So sometimes we may have issue with like maybe to retrieve the password, etc. But yeah, most of the time I think it's all good. Yeah, it's okay.
And then with your agency, do you all of your sub offices, do you all use the same login detail?
Yeah, we use the same one.
Okay, all right. So the password.
Oh, do you think it's better to like use separate ones? Or?
No, I think you should try to keep to one.
Yeah, one is easy.
Yeah, it's easier, and then you just communicate. You know, when the password is updated to the rest of your team. But I think it's for ease and to keep it simple, it's best to just use one main login. Email for your agency. Okay. So I don't know whether or not this has ever occurred to any of your counselors. When you're submitting applications, you get a notification that there's a duplicate application submitted. If any of you ever experienced this, there's what you can do is sort of trick the system by adding a symbol to the family name of the student, and it would trick the system into thinking that this is a completely new application. So if this ever occurs to any of your agents when they're submitting an application, always remember the best thing is to add a symbol to the family name. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
All right. Also for the online application for school preferences, sometimes if you cannot find the school that you're looking for, it could be for a variety of reasons. One is you could be choosing a school from the wrong group, either a primary when it should be secondary or vice versa. Okay, also it could be that the school is not accredited for the welfare option that you've chosen. And it could also be because of an incorrect application. So for example, you're choosing a non-accredited school for a standard application. Because if you, as you know, for standard students, they must enroll at an accredited government school, whereas dependent students and temporary students have a wider range to choose from. They can apply at registered schools. So they have a broader selection that way. Okay?
Yep.
If you ever experience any issues with the online application system, always email the international inbox and we will get on that right away and see what we can do to assist you. All right?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Okay. Oh, there's more online applications.
Yeah, it's more, okay. Study plan.
So
We can do this part. Okay, so for study plan, so obviously for English requirement, I think that's a part, that's one. So most students would need to have, so it depends on the year level, but the student have to do, we call ELC, so English Language Center. So they can know, a lot of schools have on-site one, which they have to do the ELC at the school for 6 months, and then they start a mainstream course. And then, or sometimes they do offsite, it's government school or private ELC. So for us, obviously, the most common study plan that you can find at school quite easily would be you do ELC term 3, term 4, and then you start a mainstream a year after. Okay, but obviously there's a few exceptions that the student will be waived from the English requirement. So would be if they got IELTS 5.5, they can start a mainstream from up to year 10. They need IELTS 6.0 for year 11, year 12. Or if they've been attending an international school for the last 2 years, where English is only language instruction, we can waive that English requirement as well. But for us, normally, the students, they would do better if they do ELC. The reason is that they will have a bit of time to prepare for the mainstream. They would get used to a new environment. They know the school, the teachers. So because the on-site ELC, we don't only teach English because you can study that everywhere. It's about the way you can study the subject, like you can teach maths and physics and chemistry. So give them that practice before they start the mainstream. So normally, if it's possible, it's always more beneficial for the kids to do ELC before they start the mainstream course. And it's easier for schools as well to accept them too. Okay, so that.
Yeah, just out of curious, because I think the Victoria Government Schools ELC is normally 21 weeks, right? Rather than 20 weeks.
It depends on the term, because we
Okay.
go by term 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that would be, so semester 1 would be 2 terms. So it depends on the semester. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes 21. So it's
okay.
It's just about the timing.
Yeah. So the tuition fee would be the same, right? Either 22.
Would be slightly 1 week more.
Okay. Oh, understand.
So obviously, it's 20 weeks between a week worth of tuition fee. Look, it's because I think term 1 is quite short for us. So normally semester 1 would be 20 and semester 2 will be 21 weeks. Normally, that's the way it works.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Okay, so now change request. So this is a form that we use quite a bit. So pretty much any time after you've been issued an offer letter, if you want to change anything, study plan, the school preference, or the welfare, we will send you a change request form to fill in. Now, once we got the form from you, completed one, it will take us about up to 2 weeks or can be longer to process the change request. So normally if you have plenty of time before the commence, that's fine. But we have issue before where it's very, last minute, and aside 2 weeks before they commence, they want to change something. That's very tricky. So we still can accept it, but I think probably it's better to let the family know that if they apply for a change to last minute, we might not make it in time. There might not be enough time for applying for the visa, all of that issues. Secondly, if the COE has been issued already, and if they want to apply for a change of school or welfare, there will be an enrollment amendment fee. And this fee has to be paid upfront before we can process the change request form. It's non-refundable. So for example, if the kid got into school A, they got an offer letter, they make the payment to the COE, and before they commence, they want to change to school B. So we have to charge the fee, amendment fee, which is roughly about $300 at the moment. And then even if we cannot, even the school B will not accept the student, we cannot refund that amendment fee either. So it's all in the change request form. So it's always easier for you to explain to the family first before they put in the form. Because I know sometimes they change their mind last minute, and then, you know, they're not happy to pay or I want a refund. So a bit harder for you later on to explain to them. So it's always easier to let them know beforehand on these conditions, and then we will do our best to turn around as soon as we can. But my advice would be, if you know, if you need more time to apply for the visa and it's quite, it's a bit, you don't have enough time to apply for the visa, I would say probably hold on from changing, because that would eat into the time that you apply for the visa. Okay, so that will be something that to keep an eye for. Oh, it's fine. Okay. So for withdrawal form, so if they want to withdraw from us, obviously got a withdrawal form to fill in, and then got a refund request form as well. All instructions will be there too. So for us, normally we try to complete the refund in about 28 days once we got everything with us. But obviously sometimes in a very peak period, it would take a bit longer. Secondly, I think the most common would be if their visa is rejected when applying for the refund, we will need to see the evidence from the immigration department, the visa refusal letter as well. So the earlier you can put everything together back to us, earlier we can start a refund process, but normally about 28 days. And again, I know some, you know, parents, they want to get the refund straight away and very soon. Explain to them that we normally we take about 4 weeks to make that happen, or maybe a bit longer. And when they fill in the form, make sure they got all the details correct, like, you know, the account number, the branch name, all of that, the parents' name, all of that. Because if the details incorrect, it will take us longer to, you know, get the money back and then set them out again, all of that issue. So but if they want to withdraw a refund, definitely they can do it. I would let you know that it would take a bit of time to make that happen.
All right, thank you, Tran. All right, so now we're gonna talk briefly about the arrivals process. I don't know whether or not you have had students that have experienced the arrivals process, because primarily the arrivals process is there for students who are coming here on an option for welfare. This means that the student is going to be provided homestay through the school. And with that, it means that the school is responsible for picking the student up at the airport. But during the arrivals process, we will inform all of our agents that it's commenced through an agent bulletin. We usually try to start the process about 8 weeks prior to the date of commencement of the term. And what that means for you as agent, it means that you will have to send to us the flight details form for each of your students that provides us with the student name and ID, you know, airline name and flight number, arrival date and time, emergency contact numbers, and also let us know whether or not a parent will be accompanying the student. The parent or relative is accompanying the student. We also request that along with the flight details form that you send us an English copy of the air ticket as well, so we can use that as sort of a checks and balance to make sure that we have the correct details. Okay, so once the student arrives at the airport, they'll be transferred from the airport by a representative of the school. It usually is either the international student coordinator or a school representative, a staff member from the school. And this is a requirement because all of our option 4 students are under the welfare of the school. So it's very important for families to understand that even if they accompany the student on the flight, that the parents cannot get into the same vehicle as the student. The student will have to be driven to the homestay family with the school representative. Now, it doesn't mean that the family can't follow the student or meet the homestay family. They will just need to make their own arrangements for transportation to get to the airport to the homestay family. Okay? And it's really important too that as agents that you advise your students that they cannot arrive in Australia prior to the 7-day welfare period, because if they do that and they're unaccompanied by a biological parent, they are at risk of breaching their visa conditions and they will be sent back home. Because the welfare period doesn't start until 7 days prior to school commencement. So it's really important that families are aware of this. If the student does come with a parent, if they're accompanied by a biological parent, that's the only time that the student can arrive in Australia prior to the 7-day welfare period. It's only if they're accompanied by a biological parent. If they are accompanied by a relative, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, they still will be in breach of their visa. So it's really important that you advise your students and families about this requirement, okay?
And so on that note as well, so visa applies to on welfare options 1, 2, 3, and 4. So once the visa granted, just please make sure that you advise them they have to start at school from day 1. So they cannot start late. Obviously we got, so the reason is for the visa integrity. If the visa has been granted and they cannot make it to here on day 1, we have to see special compelling reasons why they couldn't make it. So I would definitely advise the parents to, if the visa has been granted, make sure that they can arrive here. Well, at least a few days before, but make sure that they can start on the day 1 from the school year. Will be normally the first day on the COE. Now, I think the tricky with term 1 will be tricky one because sometimes it'll be the same time with Lunar New Year in China, Vietnam, other countries. And they want to stay a bit longer to celebrate with their family, which is understandable. To be for us to be compliant, they would need to start on the day 1. Or if they cannot make it, let us know and that we can help them out. But that will be some of the new policy that we have been implementing.
Okay, the last thing we're going to cover really just has to do with visas and enrollments. And really what that means is that for enrollments, it's very important that the student commence their course on the appropriate visa. For example, if they are coming here as a standard student, they need to make sure that they have received their temporary student visa or 500 visa. If they are coming here as a temporary student, then they will be here on a tourist visa. It's really important that they make sure that they begin commencement with the correct visa. Also with bridging visas, what a bridging visa means is that bridging visa allows the student to remain in the country while their new visa is in the process of being reviewed and granted. But the bridging visa doesn't mean that they will be allowed to abide by whatever, the new visa, what am I trying to say? Let me rephrase that. The bridging visa allows the student to remain in the country while their new visa is being processed. So during the time that they're holding this bridging visa, all of the, everything that applies to their previous visa is what we are going to be looking at, and that's what we're going to use to follow. Everything will be assessed on that previous visa. So the bridging visa just sort of allows them to stay in country while they're waiting for their new visa to be granted. Okay, it's not until their new visa is granted that we will start to assess the application with their new visa.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we can understand.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think it's for the visa, it's the best if they can wait in a home country and still they get the right visa to come over. Because, for example, if they come here on tourist visa, they cannot be placed in our homestay, option 4, because we cannot take welfare application until they actually have the right visa type. And you know, sometimes family think it's a bit easier to get a visa here, but I don't think it's the case.
Yeah, it just makes things very complicated for the family, the schools, the admissions team, because you know, if they come here with the intention of studying as a standard student, they're not granted their 500 visa, and then they think they can arrive on a tourist visa and start school. It really is not the case, and it creates a lot of confusion and you know, additional costs to the family, which we don't want to happen. So it's important that families are advised to make sure that they have been granted the correct visa before they come to Australia. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So this really ends the formal part of the presentation. So I would like to use this time now to open it up to you and your team to ask any questions that you might have. If there's anything that you would like clarification on, or just you would like to raise any issues, please let us know now.
Hi, Kelly. Can you just briefly introduce some of the websites that are most used most often when we search the appropriate school for the students, like Find My School or My School, etc. Like any useful tools we can use.
Okay, so I'm going to close out of this PowerPoint and I'm going to open up the study.vic website.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see this screen here now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, this is the study.vic website. This is the main website that you want to go to if you have any sort of questions or you're looking for information. Oops. Okay, so on the top tab here, I'll show you some of the useful things. There's a tab here for brochures and forms. If you click on this tab here, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of information, the accredited schools list. It'll give you access to Right School, Right Place. Also, I think it gives you access to Picture Yourself Studying in Victoria brochure. Okay. Tuition fees, it'll give you a list of all of the fees. You'll be able to find all of the appropriate forms that you need. For example, the welfare change form. I think the change request, is change request on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, change request forms are here as well. Everything is here. The accredited school list, both primary and secondary, is also available on this website. So knowing where to go on the brochures and forms tab is very important. Okay?
Yeah.
Also, I think the other thing that can be quite useful is, let me see, there's a Find a School feature. Here. So for example, if I type in a suburb. What? Elwood. What?
Okay. Maybe Box Hill or.
Oops. Okay, let's try Box Hill. What?
There was some issue with this one before.
Hang on. Usually it works. works very well.
Maybe some glitch.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know another website called findmyschool.vic.gov.au, right? We
Yeah,
can also.
yeah, you can find the school on that, but it's all the schools will be on that website. So there's a lot of schools, not only accredited school on that website. So you can find a few of them, but you won't know which one is accredited. You have to cross check with our list. But we can check with our marketing team about this search function. It normally works very well.
Yeah, there must be something going on today, so I apologize for that. But if you also notice on this screen, there's also a find an education agent function as well. So students can, type in on that, and let's see if this works. Okay. So for example, as I type in Taiwan, and all of our accredited agents that are able to assist students appear. This is the way the school find your school list should work.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's those are a few of the features. There's the international student program, and it'll give you, reviews or information on all of our different programs here. Yeah. So it's a very useful website to go to. It gives you information about living here in Victoria, what the lifestyle is like, accommodation, cost of living, what you can do, transport systems, things like that. So it's a very useful tool.
Yeah, Kelly, I think just now you when you type Box Hill, you missed a space. So if you type Box space Hill, then it appears, because I just tried on my computer. Yeah, Box space Hill.
Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll try again just to see whether or not this works. I'm not holding my breath. Oh, look it!
It works. I think probably, yeah.
Yay!
Probably it was a glitch. Yeah, you can see here all the schools name is there, and then the addresses and the location.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. It's working. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like for us to share with you, or?
I think my colleague had a question. Because he said like some students and parents are quite confused about the VCE, like what's the ATA like mean, or like how can they choose the correct certificates, etc. Yeah, so if you have any advice for running that part.
Okay, so we see a few questions on the group chat, but do you want us to answer the VC question first?
Yeah.
Look, VCE, so once you apply for so schools always explain to you before they start. Now for us, obviously you can start year 11 as the latest. We don't accept year 12, except the onshore transfer. The reason is VCE had to be a 2-year qualification. So VCE is something that you can use to, simple way, so VCE is a 2 years qualification. They're doing over year 11, year 12, and they do unit 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? And they would choose 5, 6, or up to 7 subjects. So English is mandatory. They will do either English or EAL. They can choose any other subjects that they want to. Now they don't do it randomly because all schools will have a thing called career counseling. So it all depends on the degree they want to do at university that they would choose the right VC subjects. For example, I want to do, want to become a doctor, for example, they would do a biomed degree. So they would do like chemistry, biology, math, but they got the different kind of math as well. They got like, you know, foundation math, they got the method math. So in general, they have to do for 2 years of it, 4 units for each subject. And then the total ITAS score will be, so basically double I's have a very complicated way to work it out. But the high score is a 99.9596 will be the top score they can get. Look, it depends. Ask about it. I think it just the easiest way will be the school will do a lot of counseling about the subject they will choose, depending on the career and the university course they want to get into as well. So that's something that school development will help them to select when they got into the schools, so that they don't have to feel worried or nervous about it. And in terms of subject selection. So pretty much anything, it depends on the course you want to do at universities as well. And the score will be on the score, so their classwork score plus the exam score together. So it's a simple way to explain what VC is. So you don't have to explain too much to the families. Pretty much just the school will help them with those information about subject selection, university courses, career counseling. But for VC degree, just let them know that they can use that to go to any unis in Victoria, obviously, if they got the right ITAS score, but they can use it in 8 other states as well, New South Wales, Queensland, anywhere in Australia we accept that score too. And we got students going to UK, New Zealand using the same VC degree too. So it's international degree as well.
Okay, yeah.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We have a question that has been typed on the chat asking about, it's from Jessie Yang, and Jessie is asking, I have some students that are under 13 years old that just want to study in the school for 1 or 2 weeks to have a study tour. Can they apply to Victorian government schools? Yes, they can apply for Victorian government schools. They'll be here as a temporary student, but if you're looking to be part of a study tour group, I can give you the name of one of our program officers, Angela, who is working with study tours. So I can provide you her contact information after this training session, and you can contact her directly if you are interested in more of a study tour type of program. Does that help, Jessie?
Hi, Jessie. I can pass you the message if you cannot hear clearly. Yeah. So there is another question asking about if students take English class. That's totally fine because it's a package visa. So it's 20 weeks of early course plus the main program. So it will be 2 COEs, and you can apply the package visa. So won't affect the visa at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you got 1 COE for the whole program. So most of the time you will do the 6-month English with us. So again, we give you the same COE for across the whole time. But sometimes if you apply a bit late or we don't have the prices, you have to do a private ELC. If you go to a private one, MLC or Hawthorn, you got a different COE from them, the COE from us, and you can use to apply for the same visa.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. So, okay, great. Thank you, Kelly and Chen. I think you did a good job. Yeah. Okay, so if we have further questions, we will let you know by email. Thanks for your presentation today. Okay.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for setting up this Zoom meeting. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate your help with that. And I want to thank everyone who participated today in this training session. And we hope that you found it useful. And, as you know, if you ever have any questions having to do with agents or admissions, always feel free to send us an email and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. But in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll pass along I'll get Angela's contact details for you, and I'll send that along to you so that you can contact her if you have any further questions having to do with study tours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
everyone.
you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly and Chen. Okay, I will end the meeting.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you.